Sarah Miller never thought she'd feel like a stranger in her own life, but standing in her small Austin apartment, she could sense something was off. At 28, she was a data analyst at a buzzy tech startup downtown, crunching numbers by day and unwinding with true crime podcasts by night. She wasn't flashy. Her wardrobe leaned toward jeans and cozy sweaters, but she was steady, the kind of friend you could count on when the chips were down. Her world revolved around a tight circle, and at the center was Lauren Brooks, her best friend since their college days at UT Austin. Lauren was everything Sarah wasn't, a whirlwind of charisma, always dressed like she stepped out of an Instagram reel, with a laugh that could charm a room. They'd been inseparable back then, sneaking into 6th Street bars, sharing late-night tacos, and dreaming about the future. Sarah was the planner, the one who booked the Ubers and held Lauren's hair back after one too many margaritas. Lauren was the star, and Sarah was happy to cheer from the wings. Lately, though, things felt different. Lauren had been ghosting Sarah's texts, too caught up with her new crew of influencers and her boyfriend, some finance bro named Ryan. Sarah told herself it was just Lauren being Lauren, always chasing the next shiny thing. But when the invite to Lauren's 30th birthday bash landed in her inbox, Sarah's excitement drowned out the doubts. The party was set for a swanky rooftop bar downtown, the kind of place with overpriced cocktails and a view of the Austin skyline. Sarah spent days crafting the perfect gift, a scrapbook packed with Polaroids, ticket stubs, and handwritten notes from their college adventures. She could already picture Lauren's face lighting up, maybe even tearing up, as they flipped through it together. It was a milestone night, a chance to reconnect and remind Lauren what their friendship meant. As Sarah stepped into the bar, the thump of bass and clink of glasses hit her like a wave. The place was packed with Lauren's new crowd, tanned, polished types snapping selfies and sipping neon drinks. Sarah smoothed her denim skirt, feeling like she'd wandered into someone else's movie. She scanned for Lauren, her scrapbook tucked under her arm, but the sea of strangers made her stomach twist. Where was the girl who used to split cheap pizza with her at 2 a.m.? The air felt thick with something Sarah couldn't name. Expectation, maybe. Or the first crack of a fault line she hadn't seen coming. She took a deep breath, pasted on a smile, and pushed forward, clinging to the hope that tonight would be the reset their friendship needed. The rooftop bar pulsed with energy, neon lights bouncing off sleek glass tables and the Austin skyline glittering below. Sarah weaved through the crowd, her scrapbook gift feeling heavier with every step. The air buzzed with laughter and the clink of overpriced cocktails, but to Sarah, it was a maze of strangers, Lauren's new influencer pals, all glossy hair and curated vibes. She spotted Lauren across the room, glowing in a sequin dress, surrounded by a posse snapping selfies. Sarah's heart lifted. She just needed a minute to hand over the scrapbook, to see that old spark in Lauren's eyes. But every time she got close, someone pulled Lauren away. A guy with a man bun, a girl in a leather skirt, all demanding her attention like she was the sun and they were orbiting planets. Finally, Sarah caught her near the bar. "Hey, Laure," she called, holding up the scrapbook, her voice barely cutting through the thumping bass. Lauren turned, her smile tight, like she'd been caught off guard. "Oh, Sarah, you made it," she said, her tone flat. Sarah pushed the gift forward, her cheeks warm. "I made this for you. It's got all our college stuff. Remember those nights on 6th Street? Lauren took the scrapbook, flipping it open for half a second before muttering, "Cute," and tossing it onto a table cluttered with empty glasses. Sarah's stomach twisted, but she forced a laugh. "Maybe we can look at it later," she offered, clinging to hope. Then it happened. Lauren leaned in, her voice low and sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. "Sarah, can we talk for a sec?" She pulled Sarah to a quieter corner, away from the crowd's eyes. "Look, you're kinda throwing off the vibe here," Lauren said, her gaze flicking to the party. "This is a big night, and your low-key energy isn't really meshing with my crew. I need you to head out." The words hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. Her mind blinked, replaying every late-night call she'd taken, every favor she'd done, every time she'd put Lauren first. "You're serious?" Sarah whispered, her throat tight. Lauren's nod was curt. Yeah, it's just better this way. I've got VIPs coming. Sarah's face burned as she turned toward the exit, the scrapbook abandoned on the table like a discarded memory. The crowd's chatter felt like a spotlight on her shame, and as she passed a group of Lauren's friends, she caught a snarky giggle and a whispered, "Who even was that?" Her legs moved on autopilot, carrying her past the bar's glass doors and into the cool Austin night. Each step echoed with a sting of betrayal, the kind that made her wonder if she'd ever really known Lauren at all. Sarah stood under the glow of a street lamp outside the rooftop bar, the Austin skyline twinkling mockingly above her. The cool night air did nothing to ease the burn of Lauren's words, still slicing through her like a fresh wound. She hugged herself, fighting the urge to cry, her mind replaying every moment she'd poured into their friendship, late-night pep talks, weekend road trips, all the times she'd been Lauren's rock. Now, she was just collateral damage, tossed out to keep the party's vibe intact. She started walking toward her car, each step heavy, when a voice cut through the haze. "Sarah, wait up." She turned to see Jake Carter, Lauren's ex, jogging toward her, his face tight with anger. Jake, with his easy grin and venture capital polish, was the last person she'd expected to notice her tonight. He stopped short, catching his breath, and locked eyes with her. "I saw what Lauren did," he said, his voice low but fierce. "That was straight up wrong." Before Sarah could respond, Jake spun toward the bar's open glass doors, where a few curious guests lingered. Raising his voice, he shouted, "Yo, Lauren, that was messed up." Sarah didn't deserve to be kicked out like that. The words echoed, silencing the nearby chatter. Sarah froze, her heart pounding as heads turned, the party's gloss peeling away under Jake's glare. Then, in a move that floored her, Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, neatly wrapped box. "This was supposed to be for Lauren," he said, handing it to Sarah, his tone softening. "But you're the one who deserves it. You've always been real, Sarah." Her hands trembled as she took the box, her mind blank. She peeled back the wrapping to reveal a sleek leather journal, the kind she'd always wanted for jotting down her thoughts. "I've seen how you show up for her," Jake continued, "and she never appreciates it. You're worth more than that." Sarah clutched the journal, her throat tight with a mix of pain and something new, validation, raw and unexpected. The weight of Lauren's betrayal still stung, but Jake's gesture was a lifeline, a reminder she wasn't invisible. From the bar, she caught the sound of whispers, the crowd buzzing as Jake's outburst rippled through the party. Sarah stood there, the journal warm in her hands, knowing this moment had just changed everything. Inside the rooftop bar, Jake's shout hung in the air like a grenade with a pin pulled. The pulsing music seemed to falter, and the crowd's chatter dulled to a tense hum. Lauren stood frozen, near the bar, her sequined dress catching the neon lights, but her usual megawatt smile was gone, replaced by a flash of panic. She tried to laugh it off, tossing her hair and calling out, "Okay, drama king, let's chill." But her voice cracked, and the guests weren't buying it. Whispers snaked through the crowd, heads turning as people pieced together what just happened. "Why'd she kick that girl out?" Someone muttered, "Kinda shady." Another said, loud enough to sting. One of Lauren's influencer friends, a brunette in a velvet jumpsuit, stepped forward, her arms crossed. "Laure, what's the deal? You just ditched your best friend for what Instagram clout?" The question landed like a slap, and Lauren's face flushed. She opened her mouth to respond, but the words stumbled. "It's not like that," she said too fast. "I just needed the vibe to be right." The excuse sounded hollow, even to her own ears, and the crowd's murmurs grew sharper. The party's glossy facade was cracking, and Lauren was scrambling to hold it together. Jake strode back into the bar, his jaw set. He didn't raise his voice this time, but his words cut deeper. "I'm done watching you play people, Lauren," he said, loud enough for the nearest guests to hear. "You can't keep faking your way through real relationships." Lauren's eyes darted to the crowd, then back to Jake, her composure unraveling. She waved her hands, trying to redirect everyone. "Come on, let's dance, y'all," she chirped, but the forced cheer fell flat. Sarah, still just outside the glass doors, caught fragments of the chaos through the hum of voices. She didn't step back in. She couldn't, but the shift in the air was unmistakable. Her humiliation, raw and searing moments ago, was morphing into something else. Lauren's exposure. The journal from Jake felt heavier in her hands, a quiet anchor as she turned away from the bar. The Austin night stretched out before her, and for the first time, she felt the ground beneath her start to steady. Sarah slumped onto her couch, the quiet of her Austin apartment swallowing her whole. The leather journal from Jake sat heavy in her hands, its smooth cover a stark contrast to the jagged ache in her chest. The rooftop bar's neon lights and Lauren's cold words replayed in her mind like a bad movie on loop. She'd been kicked out, humiliated in front of strangers, for not fitting Lauren's curated world. Sarah's eyes stung, but she refused to cry. Instead, she traced the journal's edges, letting the night's chaos settle into something she could face. She reached for the scrapbook she'd made for Lauren, now a painful relic of their friendship. Flipping through it, she saw herself in every photo, organizing spring break trips, cheering at Lauren's sorority events, always the sidekick, making sure Lauren shined. She'd planned birthdays, edited Lauren's resumes, stayed up late through every breakup, never asking for anything back. It hit her like a freight train. She'd been pouring herself into a friendship that left her empty. Lauren's toss of the scrapbook onto that cluttered bar table wasn't just careless. It was a mirror showing Sarah how little she'd been valued. Jake's gesture broke through the fog. That journal, simple but thoughtful, wasn't just a gift. It was proof someone saw her, really saw her, when Lauren hadn't bothered to. Sarah leaned back, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts untangling. Why had she clung to a friendship that demanded she shrink herself? She'd always thought loyalty meant staying quiet, taking the hit, but now she wondered if loyalty to herself mattered more. Jake's words, "You're worth more than that," echoed, a lifeline pulling her toward something new. Sarah set the journal on her coffee table, its presence grounding her. She wasn't ready to forgive Lauren, not yet. Maybe not ever. For now, she'd give herself space, let the hurt breathe. As she flicked off the lamp and headed to bed, the weight of the night didn't vanish, but it shifted. She felt raw, yes, but also resolute, like she was finally stepping out of Lauren's shadow. Sleep came easier than she expected, carrying the faint promise of a morning where she could start writing her own story. A few days after the rooftop bar disaster, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from a mutual friend, Emily. Spilling the tea. Lauren's 30th birthday bash had crashed and burned after Jake's outburst. Half the guests bailed early and Lauren's influencer crew turned on her, calling her out for icing Sarah just to keep up appearances. "It was a mess," Emily wrote. "People were saying she's all fake." Sarah stared at the message, a strange calm settling over her. She wasn't gloating, petty didn't feel right, but the news confirmed what she'd started to see. Lauren's perfect world was built on shaky ground. Later that afternoon, Jake slid into her DMs. His message short but real. "Hey, sorry if I stirred up too much drama," he wrote. "But I don't regret calling Lauren out. You didn't deserve that." He added that he'd ditched Lauren months ago when her obsession with the brand got too much. Sarah typed back a quick, "Thanks for having my back," her fingers pausing over the screen. Jake's words didn't erase the sting of Lauren's betrayal, but they were a reminder that not everyone saw her as disposable. Then came Lauren's text, a rambling novel that popped up late that night. "Sarah, I didn't mean to hurt you," it started. "I just wanted the party to be perfect for my new friends. You know how much this meant to me." "No palegi." Just a flimsy excuse about needing the right energy. Sarah read it twice, her jaw tight. It was classic Lauren, dodging accountability while expecting Sarah to clean up the mess. She hovered over the reply button, tempted to fire back, but instead, she locked her phone and tossed it onto the couch. She was done playing that game. Sarah threw herself into work. crunching data at her startup and grabbing coffee with old college buddies she neglected. Each step felt lighter, like she was shedding the weight of Lauren's expectations. She wasn't sure when or if she'd talk to Lauren again, but for now, that was okay. She slipped Jake's journal into her work bag, its presence a quiet nudge to keep showing up for herself. As she walked through Austin's bustling downtown, the spring breeze carried a new kind of freedom, one she hadn't known she'd been missing. A week after the rooftop bar fiasco, Sarah was deep in a spreadsheet at her Austin startup when her co-worker poked her head in. "Someone's here for you," she said, nodding toward the lobby. Sarah's stomach dropped when she saw Lauren standing there, arms crossed, her usual influencer glow dimmed by a nervous frown. Against her better judgment, Sarah led her to a quiet conference room, shutting the door with a soft click. "What's up, Laure?" she asked, her voice steady but guarded, bracing for whatever came next. Lauren didn't waste time. "I messed up, okay?" she said, her words tumbling out. "But you didn't have to let Jake turn my party into a circus. You know how much that night meant to me." Sarah blinked, stunned by the half-apology laced with blame. It was the same old Lauren, dodging the real issue while expecting Sarah to smooth things over. "You're seriously blaming me?" Sarah said, her tone sharp. "You kicked me out in front of everyone." "Laure." "For what? To impress your new friends?" Lauren's eyes darted away, her fingers twisting the strap of her purse. "It wasn't personal," she mumbled. "I just needed the vibe to be right." That was it, the spark that lit Sarah's fuse. For the first time, she didn't swallow her hurt. "Not personal?" she snapped, stepping closer. "I spent years being your cheerleader, Laure. I planned your birthdays, edited your resumes, stayed up all night when you were crying over guys. And you threw me out like I was nothing." Her voice trembled, but didn't break. "I was never your friend. I was your prop, there to make you look good until I didn't fit your brand." The words poured out, raw and unfiltered, each one cutting through the years of silence she'd kept. Lauren's mouth opened, then closed, her usual quick wit failing her. For once, she had no comeback. Lauren mumbled something about needing to go and slipped out, leaving Sarah standing alone in the fluorescent-lit room. Her heart raced, a mix of adrenaline and release. She'd expected to feel shattered, but instead, she felt solid, like she'd finally claimed a piece of herself back. Back at her desk, Sarah dove into her work, the numbers on her screen grounding her. The confrontation hadn't healed the wound, but it had closed a door she'd left open too long. She was done shrinking to fit Lauren's world. Sarah's life settled into a new rhythm, the sting of Lauren's betrayal fading like a bruise. She poured her energy into her startup job, nailing projects and grabbing drinks with coworkers who valued her for her. She didn't hate Lauren, just felt a quiet peace letting that chapter close. At a tech mixer downtown, she'd sometimes spot Jake, now a friendly acquaintance. They'd swap quick hellos. A nod of mutual respect, no need to rehash the past. The leather journal he'd given her became her go-to, its pages filling with ideas and dreams she hadn't dared voice before. It wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol of her worth, a reminder she didn't need anyone's approval to shine. Sarah learned a hard truth. Her value wasn't tied to fitting someone else's mold. She'd spent years dimming her light for Lauren, but no more. Now, she was writing her own story, one where she came first. Ever been pushed out of a place you thought you belonged, only to find someone had your back when you least expected? She'd ask. Drop your story below, let's talk.